I feel like we need one of those. Take two. So we're starting from the top. I'd like to welcome you. My name is Judy Bornais, and I am the Associate Vice President External at the University of Windsor. So I'd like to begin with a land acknowledgement, acknowledging that the University of Windsor sits on the traditional territories of the Three Fires Confederacy of the Ojibwa, the Ottawa, and the Potawatomi. And we respect the longstanding relationships with the First Nations peoples in this place of the 100-mile Windsor-Essex Peninsula and the Straits of Le Détroit. On behalf of President Rob Gordon and Dean Linda Rohr from our Faculty of Human Kinetics, I'd like to welcome you to this beautiful facility. I'm very proud of our Lancer Center that is 2 years old, and it is a place where we have many students engaged, both University of Windsor students, our student athletes, but also our community partners. And we're very proud of that relationship. And it's very important for us as a university, because we are a regional university, to have that relationship with our community. And so it seems like a very fitting place to host today. And so I'd like to acknowledge and welcome both our Mr. Virani and MP Kusmierczyk on behalf of our university. And if it's okay, I'd like to welcome you to the podium to begin, MP Kusmierczyk. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Judy. Really do appreciate that warm introduction. And I got to tell you, being here at the Toldo Lancer Center, the TLC Center, appropriately called, it is absolutely beautiful. And it is worth doing this announcement twice just to be able to be here, spend a little extra time here. And so just wanted to say thank you, Dean Rohr, as well, and to everyone at the university for being such gracious hosts in this beautiful, beautiful facility here in Windsor. And I also, too, wanted to state and acknowledge that the land that we are on is the traditional and ancestral territory of the Three Fires Confederacy of First Nations, the Ojibwa, the Ottawa, and the Potawatomi. Look, folks, this region is undergoing incredible change, and I would call it electric, transformative change. And we see that with the battery plant that's being built on the corner of ECRO and Banwell Road. It's being built as we speak. There are 1,000 local Canadian workers building it as we speak. There will be 2,500 workers, local, Canadian, unionized, that will be working there for generations and generations to come, building batteries, not just for here locally, but for the North American market. We are the leaders in the transition to the zero emission economy. There is a research center, a battery research center that's going up right now that will provide jobs for 600 engineers, many of them graduates of the University of Windsor engineering program and computer science program. And of course, just down the road, we see the construction of the Gordie Howe International Bridge. And already there are 11 million worker hours committed to the construction of that incredible landmark in our community. And so, folks, our community is undergoing incredible dynamic and positive change that is bringing so much optimism to our community. But there are still challenges and headwinds that we are facing. And two of those key headwinds, of course, is affordability. And our government is focused, making sure that we are doing everything we possibly can to help make life more affordable for families, for young people, for students, and for seniors as well, too. But at the same time, because our community is growing so quickly, because there are so many job opportunities coming here, we need to make sure that we fill those positions. We need to make sure that our young people, especially, have the training and the skills that they have to fulfill those jobs. And we have to make sure that we have a workforce that is ready to drive our economy forward. And this is what this day is about here today. I am absolutely delighted to welcome back to Windsor, to this region, my good friend, the Minister of Justice and the Attorney General of Canada, the Member of Parliament for Parkdale High Park, my good friend, Arif Virani. Arif.
I just want to say thank you. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for that kind introduction, Irek. Thank you to the faculty and the deans here at the University of Windsor. It is really quite impressive to be here, to be in this amazing TLC, the Toldo Center. It is a beautiful facility, and I can't think of a better place to be talking about how we can support children, because I know from the folks that are right beside me here that children play a key part of this very facility, particularly in terms of the programs that you run here all of the time. In the summertime in particular, which is really, really terrific to hear. So it is really wonderful to be here, and I'm really keen to be talking about children on behalf of the Government of Canada here in Windsor today. What we believe fundamentally as a government is that all people should benefit from the opportunities that Canada provides, and that Canada needs to ensure to work for everyone. And Canada works best when we invest in our future, and that means investing in our children. And I say this quite personally. I am the father of two young boys, a 9-year-old and a 13-year-old. And I know how critical it is from personal experience to have access to affordable childcare and early learning programs. My kids are the types of boys that have participated, not right here in Windsor, not in this beautiful facility, but in the types of programs that we are supporting right now through today's announcement. And my kids definitely availed themselves of childcare. I didn't, at the time, when they were much younger, have the benefit of availing myself of the type of affordable childcare that we've been working hard to put in place since 2021. And I know right now, the challenges that face parents are the same as the challenges that were facing parents when my kids were particularly young. And millions of parents across Canada are facing real financial pressures that lead to emotional strain as they search for high quality and affordable options for their children. Since 2021, our government has been taking direct action on this front. You know that since 2021, in the parliament that at that time Irek and I were serving in during the middle of the pandemic, we committed to creating an affordable Canada-wide system of early learning and childcare. And that came with a price tag, and it was significant and remains significant, of close to $30 billion. Just this week, we entrenched that financial commitment into law through a commitment by achieving royal assent on a bill called Bill C-35 that creates a statutory framework that is codified in Canada about that important contribution. And what it means with that kind of contribution is that we will continue to work with provinces, with territories, and with Indigenous partners to make meaningful progress towards solutions that work for families from coast to coast to coast. So how's it been going so far? Well, we're already seeing the benefits of this kind of historic investment. For example, this coming Monday, on April the 1st, the start of the new fiscal year, childcare will be delivered for $10 a day or less in 8 different provinces and territories in Canada, which is quite a remarkable accomplishment in such a short time span. So, and what we're seeing, which I really like emphasizing, and we've heard Minister Freeland talk about this extensively, as well as Prime Minister Trudeau, is that when you couple that kind of record investment into children and families, what you do is you unlock some of the economic activity that Irek was talking about as the proud member of Parliament from this part of Southwestern Ontario. And the economic activity I'm talking about is that we have women's labor force participation at levels we've never seen in Canada, crossing an 80% threshold. Why is that? It's critical because we're doing this in a manner that empowers women to make active choices rather than forced choices about whether they re-enter the workforce or enter it for the first time, or whether they're complied to stay at home as the primary caregivers of most children in this country. We believe in giving women choices, and that's what these policies are doing. But I'm here today to be talking about what Budget 2024 is going to do to complement this work. And what I'd say to you is that there are multiple initiatives that are contained in Budget 2024. What we will be doing includes legendary investments that will help to empower the creation of even more spaces. So I'm talking about funding that's directed through funding to the Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation for a childcare expansion loan program to increase the availability of childcare spaces across Canada. This is significant because it totals up to $1 billion in loan availability and $60 million in contributions to boost the construction and renovation of childcare centres around Canada. This is critical because we can't increase the availability of childcare if we don't have enough physical childcare spaces. The second thing that we are announcing in Budget 2024 includes ongoing funding for Employment and Social Development Canada, a portfolio that's well known to Irek Kusmierczyk, given his extensive work as Parliamentary Secretary, to support not-for-profit childcare providers in their applications for infrastructure funding. Expanding access to early learning also means helping the teachers and the educators who play such a key role in helping our children learn and thrive. This is particularly critical in rural and remote communities. And I'm speaking directly to some of the members of the audience because as I was chatting with some of the people that help run this fine institution, I learned that Mona's daughter is about to embark upon an ECE course of training. And what we're saying to those people, those young people that are starting out on that journey, is that what we're going to do is expand loan forgiveness for such people if they choose to work in rural and remote areas. And why are you doing that, Minister Virani? Well, we're doing that specifically because this is not about childcare just for Windsor or just for Toronto or just for Ottawa. It is about childcare for Fergus, childcare for Chatham, childcare for smaller communities all around Southwestern Ontario, all around the province of Ontario, all around the country, ensuring that every family has the chance to get affordable childcare. So that's critical in terms of empowering those young people to work in those areas. And lastly, what we're also doing is we are including funding to support programs that train those early childhood educators. We will equip our teachers with best practices in their profession to help ensure the next generation have the brightest start in life. These are really critical investments. And you'll find a narrative here. Yesterday, we were talking around the country about supporting young people, Gen Z and millennials, in terms of their quest for housing, whether that's rental housing or getting on the path to buying a home. Now we're talking about who do you put in that home? How many kids do you decide to raise? When do you decide to start a family? We don't want economic constraints to limit people in terms of making those really important life decisions. By empowering affordable childcare, we're allowing Canadians to get on with what they want to do to make their dreams come true about owning that home and about starting that family and raising that family in an affordable manner. So we're talking about significant funding to build and renovate childcare space. We're talking about loan forgiveness for more high quality training for educators. We're talking about more support for not-for-profit childcare providers. We're talking about measures to help encourage early childcare educators to live and work in rural and remote areas. These are all steps that will help ensure that children can benefit from the best possible start, no matter their background, their family situation, or where they live. Thank you again to Irek, my colleague. Thank you to Judy and your colleagues for providing this great facility for this tremendous announcement. And I'd be very happy to take your questions at this point. Merci beaucoup.
All right, we will now begin the question and answer session. Alors, nous allons maintenant amorcer la période de questions et réponses. We'll first take questions in the room, and then we will go to questions on Zoom. Alors, nous allons d'abord répondre aux questions dans la salle, puis nous passerons aux questions sur Zoom. For the journalists on Zoom, please add your outlet to your name so we can identify you. And also, please raise your hand so we know to turn to you. As usual, we're going to go with one question and one follow-up. Le format est d'une question avec un suivi. Et s'il vous plaît, posez vos questions dans la langue officielle de votre choix. Feel free to ask the questions in that official language.
Hi, Dale Molnar from CBC News. Auto thefts are on the rise in Windsor. How does the federal government plan to address that? And is this different for a border city?
Auto thefts are up across Ontario and they're up across the country. And that is no different in Windsor than it is in elsewhere in other centers in the province. And what you've seen from our government is active steps to show leadership and take initiative on this front. In the last 8 weeks, we've announced a total of almost $200 million in funding that will assist, first of all, with law enforcement in the province of Ontario, so $120 million through a Guns and Gangs initiative that helps local law enforcement across Southern Ontario, including Southwestern Ontario, deal with the pressing issue of auto theft. We've also invested targeted supports in the Port of Montreal to the tune of about $28 million, and also $15 million in assisting in international cooperation. And we've done that at that Port of Montreal because we know that thefts that occur in Ontario often end up on a 400 series highway and cars are driven out to the Port of Montreal and exit out of that port to foreign destinations, often for sale in places like Sub-Saharan Africa or Eastern Europe. That is important. We also convened an auto theft summit in which I played a role, as did the Prime Minister, as did the Minister of Public Safety. But as well, there was also individuals like François-Philippe Champagne, the Minister of Industry. And that begs the question as to, well, why was he there? And Minister Champagne was there because we know that we need to be working on this on multiple fronts. We need to be addressing law enforcement on the ground. We need to be addressing the Port of Montreal. We also need to be addressing the industry and the requirements that are placed on things like automobile manufacturers in terms of improving the anti-theft devices and provisions that form part of what every vehicle needs to include. We had auto insurance individuals there at the meeting as well, and we were hearing from them about auto insurance rates and how that is impacting upon Canadians. And lastly, as Minister of Justice, I'm obviously responsible for the criminal code. And I'm looking very closely at the criminal code and how we can make amendments to that code to ensure that we are tackling the issue of auto theft aggressively. What I'd say to you is what I say to many people when I'm talking about this, is that we need to ensure that we're working collaboratively, but I've also been encouraged by recent steps that have happened. About 2 weeks ago, we had about 68 vehicles seized at the Port of Montreal before they ever exited the country. Just in the last couple of days in Toronto, we had quite a record number of arrests that were made. 7 individuals, 150 charges, and about 50 cars were seized. And what is critical about that initiative on the part of the Toronto Police Force is that they were getting at the heart of organized criminality, which is behind this rising number in auto thefts that are occurring. So we're examining it, we're speaking with it. I'm engaging constantly with police forces here in Ontario about how to address it. And we're working collaboratively with different levels of government to do exactly that. And we'll continue to prioritize this because it's a critical matter for people here in Windsor, but right across the province. Thank you.
Just check if there's another question in the room. Right, and Minister, we have no questions on Zoom. So that would be our last question for today, and we can wrap up today's session. So I'm going to say thank you and merci all very much for participating today. If you have further questions for the reporters, please do reach out to the Department of Justice, and we can direct you to the appropriate department for further questions. Alors, merci tout le monde et bonne journée.
Merci beaucoup. Thank you.